Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. I blanked on the word questions for some reason. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Cool. I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little, I'm getting over being sick today, but hopefully that
won't affect your performance as it already has.
It already has.
Jeez.
Yeah. So you're doing pretty good?
Yeah, not too bad.
Cool. Yeah. So like I said, I'm not really sick anymore. It's all past, but like I even took a day off of work a few days ago.
Sure.
But yesterday, as of this recording, I guest hosted on Crit Academy. Ooh. Our buddies, they live about an hour and a half away from us. And I drove out there this time. Last time I guested on there, I did it via Skype or Google Hangouts. And it occurred to me while driving out there yesterday, I spend more time driving to work every day than I spent driving out there. Because I mean, the distance is further, but driving to work, I have so much traffic and everything. I spend about an hour and a half or more driving to work every day.
Yeah.
It was about an hour and 15 minutes driving out to there. So shoot, if I ever guest again, I will just drive out there again. And I think it was much better being there in person than it was over the internet.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're driving in the morning or going to work or something, you're dealing with a commute. Although you have different hours than most people, so
I do. I leave for work about 2:45. I get to work. I start work at 4:30 p.m. And then I leave work at 3 a.m. So there's never traffic on the way home.
Oh, huh. As I was gonna say, it's like the morning commute can sometimes be heavy in traffic, but you don't have a morning commute. You just have a commute.
It's an afternoon commute. Yeah. It's
an after commute.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, I guess you want to go ahead and get into the episode?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Now, Jeff, I want you to imagine this is gonna be a little bit spooky.
Okay.
So it's late one night. You're sitting at home. I'll say Skylar's out with friends or something. You're just by yourself, and you're like, I don't feel like playing any games or watching TV. I wonder. Let me clean out that. Let me clean out that closet that I've been meaning to clean out for a long time. So
it's getting kind of messy.
Yeah, you go and you open it up, and of course the whole mountain of stuff the tennis racket falls out for some reason.
It's still got the tag on it.
Yes, and you notice that you have this long and thin wooden box. This like a game board, I guess, but like it's wooden.
Sure.
In there, and you're like, I don't remember this. So you take it out. You blow the dust off of it. You can't quite make out what it is, but you open it up, and it's this game board, but it's got all these like letters and numbers on it, and you're thinking that's really weird. There's got this thing. It's sort of shaped like an upside down heart, but it's got like a circle, like a hole in the middle with like a little window. You think that's weird, and you're thinking, this is stupid. I wonder where I left that treasure. Maybe I'll just play with that treasure, and then you notice the little heart thing starts moving, and you see it's moving around, and you see it starts to spell out UND. It's starting to spell out under your bed.
Oh,
that's really weird. So you run upstairs, you look under your bed. Sure enough, there's that treasure.
Oh,
that's where you left it.
Wow.
And
it's pretty handy. Yeah,
but that's a little weird. Like what is going on here? And so you go and you start asking more questions, and this thing starts responding to you. And then you're having a pretty good time. Like you're getting some good responses. You're getting some rapport going back and forth between you and whatever power is controlling this. And then the door opens and Skylar walks in, and she sees what you're doing. She says, "Jeff, stop that. Do you know what that is?"
Well, no, what?
That's a dragon's board. like a Ouija board,
right?
Except it's a dragon's board, because dragon's board rhymes with dragon's hoard. You get it? You get it?
Gabe, the fastest way to kill a joke is to explain it.
You get it?
No.
You get it? All right.
Okay.
Well,
what is our item for today?
so our item for today was submitted by Adam via email. And this item is called the Blade of Isha. This blade was created by the moon goddess Isha, created on the eve of Moon's death. The tiny sliver of the moon was plucked from the heavens and crafted into a blade for her champion to be used against the horrors of the darkness.
Ooh.
The blade glows, producing a dim light which intensifies in the presence of the undead. It sheds dim light up to 10 feet and bright light when within 100 feet of an undead creature. The blade also provides a +1 damage, +1 to damage and to hit. So that's pretty much it. That's a simple item. Basically, it's just a magic sword that does, it's a +1 sword. But whenever it is in the presence of an undead creature, it glows really bright. And then if I'm reading this correctly, it always gives a little bit of light. So it gives like a little bit of dim light, kind of like moonlight. But then when an undead is nearby, it glows very bright.
Nice.
I really like that.
Yeah.
I love items that let you detect when a certain type of creature is nearby.
Right, yeah.
I've always liked that, especially undead. My character Ichi, he had, I believe eventually I got him a thing that let him detect undead, but he hated undead.
Yeah.
So this sort of an item would be right up his alley.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like, it goes back to, like, the Sting in Lord of the Rings
Exactly,
and stuff
exactly.
like that. But, like, like, that's a really cool mechanic to have. Anybody can having that sort of thing. Goes back to one of the other items where, like, like, who's the most powerful.
Yes.
The Kingslayer or whatever it was.
Kingkilla.
The Kingkilla, right. Rhymes with chinchilla.
Yes.
But yeah, like, just stuff that lets you know something about someone, like, without necessarily, like, directly reading their mind, but you, like, just have, like, a little one up on somebody, like, or you have a little, like, heads up on what's going on.
Sure. And just like the way that you can use this, if you're the DM, you can use this to create tension so easily.
Oh yeah.
The party's wounded, they're getting ready to rest for the night, and suddenly that sword starts to glow.
Right. And like even if you don't intend them to fight the undead,
even just like the fact that they know it's nearby,
right,
is going to put them on edge.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like they're out in the middle of daylight in the road, and then like it like glows for like a few moments and then fades away, and it's like, wait, what was that?
Yeah.
Like who was that? Like,
yeah.
How is there undead out in the daylight? Meanwhile, it's like like a zombie just walked by in the sewers or something.
Right. Also, you could, let's say they find this item while they're on a quest. They go back to town, and they finish their quest. They go to talk to their quest giver or whatever. He's like, he's in his office or whatever. Mm-hmm. They walk in there to get their reward, and they notice that the sword is glowing.
Yeah.
What's going on here? They start to notice all of the arcane runes around the room.
There's like...
They notice that he has no skin on his face. Wait a minute, you just said that he was very pale. No, I said his bones were very pale.
There's like a measuring tape of exactly 100 feet, like from his office, from his desk. Yep. And like you're just kind of like standing at the edge of it, and you like hold the sword in. Yes. It starts to glow, hold it back, dims again. Yeah.
Yeah.
The receptionist is like, "What are you doing?"
Sure. I don't know if I mentioned this on a previous episode. I probably did, but there was an issue. There's an issue of Dungeon Magazine that had this really cool adventure in it called The Styes. It was about this like town it was like a town that was like there was like on docks, kind of like Venice, and so there was like a lot of water. There was a lot of water travel, water encounters, and so on. Mm-hmm. And one of the main NPCs in it, I guess spoilers for this adventure that came out in a magazine like 15 years ago or something, and whatever. But this major NPC in the adventure is an undead. And you're not supposed to know that while doing it, but you find it out through something that happens in the adventure. But I feel like whoever was doing the artwork for this adventure really dropped the ball, because his one and only portrait in this adventure, nobody could look at this portrait and think, oh, he's a normal dude.
Yeah.
He, like, his eyes are looking in different directions and he has maggots crawling out of his mouth. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be fooled. I'm not going to be surprised when I find out this guy is an undead. No, I thought he was just one of those people with maggots crawling out of their mouth.
Yeah, there's a weird disconnect between like like artists for like magazine for like adventures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like there's several times you'll see like the stat block will not match the picture at all.
Sure.
That sort of thing.
There's great example in Shackled City. There is one of the like big full page artworks for one of the adventures in that campaign shows this one character who, if you look later in her stat block, she is wearing half plate, which if you know anything about half plate, it's like one step below full plate.
Right.
It's full plate that is more restrictive. Like it doesn't cover as much skin, but what is there is even bulkier than full plate.
Okay.
But in her picture, she's wearing like a thong and one of her arms is covered in armor.
Gabe, don't you know?
Yes, I know. The less that they're wearing, the higher their AC is, or
right.
whatever. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. Well.
But sorry, just one more thing about magic item, or one more thing about pictures not matching stat blocks. In the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide, if you have the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide, look at the picture of the folding boat. And then look at the description of the folding boat.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
In no way is that a picture of the item that is depicted in the stat block.
Right, like the picture itself is a folding boat.
It is a boat that folds,
Yeah.
yes. But it's not, I wouldn't think of that as a magic item. That is like, oh, you could actually make a boat that can fold up.
Yeah.
Because it shows like a box, which, going by the reference in the picture, the box looks to be maybe 5 or 6 feet wide.
Uh-huh.
You open it up. You then like roll out this bottom of a boat, which then in the picture, there are like supports you put in to make it stay in that shape.
Yeah, it looks like the instructions for putting up like a tent or something. Like,
kind of, yeah.
Like putting together like a camping tent.
But then you read the description and the box is like, I don't know, a foot by a foot by a foot. It's like a tiny little box. And then it folds out with like a mast and everything. It's like, that is not what is it. This is a rowboat in the picture. A rowboat that looks to be made of a flexible material.
Yeah, it looks like it looks like a canoe. It looks like an inflatable canoe. Or
but the
like
description
a tent turned upside down.
The description is like clearly a magic item. It like it turns into a giant masted wooden ship, whereas the picture is very much not a masted wooden ship.
Yeah.
Anyway. That's where we're getting way into the weeds here.
Oh.
But I think this is a really cool item.
Yeah, really nice flavor to it.
Yes. I love the description that the goddess plucked the tiny sliver of the moon and then turned that into a weapon.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
In Dark Souls 3, if I recall, Dark Souls sound, there is a weapon you can get that looks like a crescent moon.
Oh yeah.
And it has a special attack where like you basically like throw a spinning moon at the enemy.
What's the name of the covenant?
Rosario's fingers?
No, there's the other one.
Dark Moon Blades?
Yeah, the Dark Moon Blades.
Well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but they don't actually get a weapon that is moon shaped.
Oh, okay.
Heck, you could call this the Dark Moon Blade.
Cool. Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, it's the Blade of Isha, but if you wanted to make like a Dark Souls themed campaign, just change the name to something that is in Dark Souls, and there you go. All right, well, I think that'll do it for the Dragon's Hoard for today. If anybody wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, or questions for us to discuss, how would they do so?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com.
Yes, and we have a giveaway today.
Yeah.
So, for anybody who is just tuning in, this is maybe the first episode they're listening to. I apologize for not really sticking to topic all the time, but we are giving away a free adventure courtesy of game designer Goblinstone. They make lots of 5th edition D&D adventures, and they have one that we're going to give away for free. We give one away every episode now.
Yeah.
If you wish to be entered into the drawing, what do you have to do, Jeff?
Just send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Chapel on the Cliffs in the subject line.
Yes, so we'll be giving out Chapel on the Cliffs. It is a horror-themed adventure for characters that it can be scaled for characters levels 2 to 6. So, our winner for today is Claudine. So, congratulations, Claudine. Whoa, winner! Gobble, gobble, gobble. So yeah, once again, if you wish to enter the drawing, just send us an email with Chapel on the Cliffs in the subject line. We will draw another one every episode.
Cool. Congratulations.
Yes. And before we get to questions, I want everybody to check out Crit Academy. Like I said, I guested on Crit Academy just yesterday. That episode should be going out in a couple weeks. It's going to be episode 70, I believe. The topic, or maybe, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but the topic for that episode is going to be underwater combat and flying combat.
Ooh.
So, so 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's coming right at you. All right, and then also check out D&D Character Lab. They are a great podcast where they make characters and then pit them against each other. Yep, so they're a lot of fun. Check them out.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, you want to get into questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
Okay, our first question comes from Ducky Yup Yup Yup. This was on Reddit.
He said that right.
Yeah. I don't always get the names right, but that time I'm pretty confident. How can I ask my DM to make our game more dangerous without putting a target on my back?
Yeah. So in this case, the question was their situation was that they have a DM that is kind of on the easier side, and I mean I can sympathize with this because I tend to run easier games. I don't like bend over backwards not to kill players. If the dice, if that's how the dice go, that's how the dice go.
Right.
But if when I'm planning encounters. And when I'm adjudicating things, I tend to err more on the side of being generous to the players and making the game easier. Just because when I'm playing and my character dies, it is very rarely something that I'm happy about. I'm trying to make the best of it when it does happen, but it's a lot of work to make that good.
Right.
And so I tend to I try to make the consequences be elsewhere when possible. There's going to be different schools of thought on the topic, on the subject, but my personal ways, I tend to be an easier DM, and I could understand someone wanting the game to be harder. So the question is, how do I say to the DM, I want the game to be more dangerous without having that translate to, hey DM, kill my character.
Right. Yeah. I mean, right off the bat, you don't necessarily you don't want to be try not to be insensitive or insulting or anything.
Sure.
Try not to say hey, this sucks. I want it. I wish it was harder. Come on, man. Give us a challenge.
Hit me, bro.
Come at me, bro. But if it's just, it's actually is what you want is a more challenging, campaign or adventure or something. You could just bring it up after a session or something and be like, hey, maybe if combats are just going too easy, no one's getting hurt or you're never in any real peril, just go off of how many resources that the characters are using. If it's just not feeling like a challenge or you don't feel like, you're in any danger, just bring up, be like, hey, bump it up a little bit, throw an extra goblin in there from time to time or something.
Sure. Yeah, I would say everybody who is listening, as a general rule, try not to take offense when a person tells you what they want out of their game.
Sure, right, yeah.
I think everybody should be able to say that with no judgment, without any feelings hurt. If someone wants something different out of the game or they want something specific or whatever, I think you in a perfect world, you should be able to say what you want out of a game and not have anybody get upset about it.
Right. I mean, well, that you definitely want to say it that way, for sure. Because I'm sure there's plenty of people who will say hey, come on, this is baby stuff or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, as as the DM on the receiving end, you should just say try not to be offended by it. Don't take it as a a criticism on your DMing.
Yeah.
Just be okay, this, my players want this. I should try to meet that.
Yeah. Because let me ask you, if you were running a game, would you rather a player maybe hurt your feelings a little bit and say, hey, I feel like this game is really easy. I would like it to be harder, whether that would hurt your feelings or not. Would you rather someone say that to you, or would you rather they just stop coming?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or wait until the very end and say that was crap.
Yeah.
It's while the majority of the work is with the DM, the players do have their input, and it is sort of a joint effort, this game.
Yeah.
So, you should be taking some input from every now and again from your players. So, yeah, and I mean, it could be as easy as just bumping up the challenge rating of an encounter or something like that. It depends on the what exactly the players want.
Yeah, especially in 5th edition, building encounters, it's more of an art than a science, because I mean there is a science to it. You can build an encounter that is this CR monster and this CR monster and this CR monster, and statistically speaking, that should be a medium or hard encounter or whatever. You might run the encounter, and then because of rolls or because it's just how it goes, sometimes the players will just steamroll them.
Yeah.
Other times, you might throw a statistically easy encounter at the players, and then again, because of rolls or whatever, the players get, it's almost a TPK, or it is a TPK. That's, that sort of stuff has happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
So because of how 5th edition is so reliant on dice rolls, because with the bounded accuracy and stuff, which I think it's a good thing overall, it can make planning encounters a little hard. I don't know how long this campaign has been going on, Ducky Yup Yup Yups encounter, or Ducky Yup Yup Yups campaign.
Yep.
But if the campaign has only been going for a couple sessions, it very well could be that the encounters so far have been statted out to be hard encounters, and then things just don't go that way, and they end up being really easy.
Yeah,
that's possible. I mean, maybe not. I can't really make a judgment without more information, but that's possible. But it couldn't hurt to just say to the DM, like, hey, I like my games to be a little bit harder. Is there a way that you could try making them just a little bit more challenging for us?
Sure.
And I would hope that the DM could take that and take that as just constructive criticism, and then work on incorporating that.
Yeah. I'd be willing to bet that, like, not to say that the DM's experienced, but it might be a newer DM.
Could be.
Not used to being a DM or running adventures or something like that. Because I've never officially run a game myself, but I could definitely see myself like kind of like slowly like getting used to it. Not like I don't want to throw too much. I'd rather it be easy than too challenging.
Yeah.
Like at least at first, and at least until I get my bearings as far as, running an adventure. Cause like I don't want my first time being a DM, or at least one of my first times being a DM. Like I kill the whole party because I put way too tough of a creature in front of them.
And like I've heard stories of that happening. I think those kinds of stories they're sad, but they're hilarious. Sure. So like, wow, that's as bad as it could have gone.
Yeah. I have a few ideas I'm working on like I'm slowly working on like writing an adventure. Mm-hmm. Or
that's a lot of work. So good job.
Yeah, it's a small series of adventures.
Sure.
And I keep working from the back forward. So like I'm like thinking of like basically the main the main bad guys and like the monsters and stuff like that. So like I'm coming up with all these really challenging things and not putting too much into like how am I going to start it?
Sure.
So like starting like again, we don't know for sure at what part of the campaign this is at, but like if it is at the beginning, I could feel like that's sort of a tricky part to kind of gauge how challenging to make the campaign. So so if this is somebody who's a newer DM, or this is like the beginnings of a campaign, it could just be that they're trying to find the right level. Yeah. To put it at.
This makes me think of just the topic of like, making the player wanting a DM to make things harder. Video games deal with this a lot, where you want a game to be accessible by everybody. You don't want anybody to feel like they cannot play or even beat your game.
God, this game is for babies.
But at the same time, there are a lot of people that if the game is too easy, they won't find enjoyment with it. Like there are plenty of games that I have stopped playing because it was too easy. One way that I would say like really good game developers often find a way to let the players adjust the difficulty. And I don't just mean by choosing easy, normal, or hard. That's one way to do it.
Right.
But there's a game that recently came out for the Nintendo Switch. It's out on like Steam and stuff. It's called Celeste. It's a relatively difficult platformer. So like the idea is you're this girl climbing this mountain, and there's actually a really good story to it. So it's a story-based platformer, which is such a weird concept. And the story is so great that I want I want, and I'm sure the developers want, everyone to be able to play through to the end.
Right, yeah.
But at the same time, they started making the game as a difficult platformer. So in order to make it hard but also accessible, what they did was they made a game that the game itself is like this one, basically it has a pretty steady curve of difficulty. It starts out relatively easy, and then they introduce all the new mechanics to you, so that by the end you know the game well enough that you can overcome the challenges. And they also, in addition to that, because I'm sure there are hardcore players that are going to play that and be like, oh, this is easy. That could happen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are a whole crap ton of optional challenges, some of which are just remixed versions of the levels that are ridiculously difficult. I'm talking like 700 deaths on a single level difficult.
Jeez.
That's me I'm talking about right here. Or in addition to those, just going through the level. As you're going through a level, there are these little strawberries that you can collect.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to. The game makes it clear there is no reward for getting all of these strawberries, except maybe you can impress your friends.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Like there's like a tooltip in the loading screen.
Right.
It's like, hey, you don't have to do this. This doesn't like unlock anything.
Because I know I'm the type of player, if there is some sort of extra thing I can unlock by getting all these collectibles, I'm gonna do it. And even though that's my own choice, I'm going to fault the game if it gets to be too difficult. I'm subconsciously gonna be like, why does this game have to be so hard? But so they give you optional challenges that do make the game significantly harder. Getting all of the strawberries is hard. Way harder than just beating the level. So in that way, the player is able to choose how hard they want to make it.
Right.
Also, the game has these, there's this huge array of things you can do to make the game easier for yourself. You don't have to do it. There's no reason you have to. In fact, if you want it, you have to seek it out and activate it. And then there's all these different little options. You can make it so that your air dash, which you normally get one air dash per jump. You can now have you can choose how many air dashes you want. If you want to crank it all the way up to the max, which I think is 9 or something, maybe it's even infinite, I haven't actually used it, you can give yourself that many air dashes. If you want just one extra air dash, you think just one extra would make the game easier for you, just give yourself one extra. If you can make it so that whenever you fall into a pit, you bounce back out of the pit. So you cannot die by falling into a pit, which is the main challenge of the game. So if you are if you are not good at games and you are so concerned that you won't be able to finish it, you can make it so that you can get through the whole game that easily. There's even something as simple as you can just make the game run at 90% speed. If it's just a little bit too fast for you, all the hazards and whatnot, you can make it just a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And the fact that none of that is on by default, none of that is mandatory. It's all up to the player to decide how difficult they want it to be.
Right, yeah.
So I'm saying all of this because the question then is there a way that you can do this with D&D? Is there a way that you can impose challenges on yourself, or that the campaign can have challenges built in that players can choose to make the game a little bit more dangerous for themselves?
Yeah, multiple entries into a dungeon, that sort of thing.
Sure, I never even thought of that.
Well, because it does make me think of video games where there will be more. There are more ways to the same end. Chrono Trigger, I know had there was a few different paths you can take.
Yeah.
There was one that was shorter, more direct, but it was a lot harder. There's one that took more work, but in the the difficulty scale was a little bit more gradual. So that sort of thing where you're just you're choosing a different path. One of the adventure games I played recently, King's Quest 6.
Okay.
Actually there's two ways to beat the game. There's a castle you have to go into, and there's two ways to get into it. It's a really old game. It's not really spoiler, but
go for it.
You either sneak in, you use some magic to sneak in through the side wall. You basically draw a door in the side wall and sneak into the bottom level.
Yeah.
Or you disguise yourself as a I think you disguise yourself as a woman and like walk in with a bunch of other ladies that are going in for like a party or something. And they're like one is like the bottom level and one is the top level of the castle. And there's like two different like sets of puzzles that go with it. And like, I'd only ever beaten it one way. And like at the end of the game, when you beat it one way, it's like, hey, there's another way to beat it. You should go back and play it.
Yeah.
And like, it just kind of suggests to you to do that. And like, I never done it. And I recently looked it up and it's like, I was way different than I was expecting, like a very minor difference. Like, just like the way that you enter the castle is different, but like the puzzles within the castle are the same, but they're completely two different sets of puzzles and stuff. Like that.
Sure.
And different endings too. Like there's two main characters that are dead that you bring back to life that in one way beating the game, they stay dead.
Okay.
They're just not, you just don't bring them back.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. But yeah, and in any way, there's self-imposed challenges. That's one way to do it. So like you could find a way to kind of like make it more challenging for yourself.
Yeah.
In that way, it can kind of, the DM might take offense to do it, like to make, or he might see that as like a nuisance, like, oh, you're making the game, you know, you're trying to be the DM might see it as you being a problem player or something like that.
Oh, I see.
So like if you're trying to make things more challenging by maybe, you know, killing the guard rather than, you know.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like it's like fighting the guard rather than trying to like convince them to let you in or something like that.
Yeah.
So like you storm.
I hadn't even thought of that.
You storm the castle that, you know, in a normal way, like they're not hostile to you, but you need to get in there, and there's very much an easy way to get in by just like bribing them or like asking a person this or that or whatever. Or you could just, you know, just fight your way in. Like, no, I need to get in there. Like that's where the thing I need to get is. Like, I don't care how many enemies I make in the way. So that could be seen as like a problem player or somebody who's just like, you know, that can make it more challenging for the rest of the players who don't necessarily want it to be challenging. Like if you're the only person who wants more challenge, that can be an issue. Sure.
Yeah. That I was going to say that, like, a way that a DM can make the game more challenging is, like you were saying, if the DM puts in multiple ways to overcome a challenge where there is explicitly different levels of difficulty, but even maybe the different options have different rewards. So like, in a dungeon example, if there are 3 ways into the dungeon, the hardest way into the dungeon there are the best treasures to be found that way or something.
Right.
And then maybe with like, if the party is going to just charge right in and take the hardest way that way, if they succeed, they get a better end result than if they like infiltrated or whatever. But that does run into the problem of, if you're the only person who wants to take the really hard way, what are you going to do? You can't really just, you can't take a different way into the dungeon than the rest of the party. It's going to split the DM's resources, and it's going to make it harder for you because there's fewer people.
Right.
I don't know. That is a neat concept though, just using like different explicit, as a DM, creating explicitly different levels of challenge with different rewards to do so. I think that's really cool. And I think I want to try to use that in my own games. I guess thinking though, I mean, the question is, I just realized the question isn't really asking how do you make the game more dangerous?
Right.
It's how do you ask the DM to make the game more dangerous?
Well, I mean, in this way, this is like suggestions you could make to the DM.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, because you know, unless it's just simply I want tougher monsters, like you know, it could just be that simple.
Or like if you feel like the DM isn't using the monsters tactically enough.
Right, yeah, you could just be throwing him and saying like, okay, he moves and he attacks. He moves.
Okay, the dragon, he attacks you.
Yeah, it's like
he doesn't fly, he doesn't use his breath weapon,
right,
he just attacks you.
He's got rawr, claw.
Yeah.
It's like he has 5 attacks. Yeah, he just uses his claw.
Right.
He's tired.
And so with this, I think if it is something like the DM's tactics, that's probably going to be something that's going to be harder to get them to realize how to change, because
I mean, I feel like I wouldn't. I feel like I probably don't have a very, I wouldn't have a very good grasp on like tactics and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I would try. I'd have like one thing I'd have like an idea of like, well, cause like, oh, these guys are going to stand guard here and these guys are going to hide over here and ambush in round 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the players do something completely different than I expected. And then I'm just like, oh crap.
Yeah. That's always been my problem. Every time I have planned like a really intricate encounter with like this enemy is going to do this. And then like, oh, that enemy got killed first round. Well, crap. He can't do the important thing he was going to do.
Right.
Well, now what do I do? So if it is something like that, something that is like that based on the DM's own sensibilities and whatnot, it can be hard to get them to realize that or to get them to change that. It may just be something that you kind of have to accept if that's the case. But I mean, it couldn't hurt to talk to them.
Yeah.
Not at the table, of course. Don't be in the middle of the session and be like, look, DM, this game isn't hard enough. Because then they are just going to have a monster kill you.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
oh, look at that. I rolled a 4. Oh, well, he has a plus 30 to damage. Oh, you're dead.
Looks like he has regeneration, and he gets a surprise round.
Right, exactly. He has a magic item, lets him do that. Oh, it broke. Sucks to be you. So, talk to the DM. Try to be as tactful as possible. Try to show that you understand that there's a lot to this, and it might not all be intentional. The thing is, you need the DM to want to make the encounters harder. That's why, like, if they're not used to using tactics, or if they don't want to use really good tactics, they're not going to, whether you try to like nudge them or not. They need to want to do that. So just kind of impress upon them, hey, I think the game would be a lot more fun. Don't try not to be accusatory. Don't say, you need to do this. Say, hey, I think this game would be a lot more fun if there was more, if it was more challenging and we were forced to use all of our abilities. We were forced to use all of our consumables and so on. I've got all these consumables. I haven't had a use for them. I might as well not have them.
Yeah.
Maybe like if you mention that like, oh, there could be a situation that specifically calls for this item to be used up and then so on and so on. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like, I was thinking like always keep tabs on like what your players have on them. So like maybe there is just a consumable that's been sitting in somebody's inventory for a while. And like, you could try to throw, situations at them that would call for that item to be used or at least be helpful. And they might not always take the bait.
Sure.
In a lot of cases, like
they might forget that they had that item.
Right. Exactly. I feel like we've even talked about that before where like, it's just like you plan for something. I think it was, I think you were talking on like people like character backstories or something like that, or like when you try to use a character's backstory or something and like kind of put it into the adventure.
Sure.
And then they don't even really, they don't take to it. They like you try to give them a hook that relates to their character.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, let's go over here. It's like,
but I was involving your. But why don't you remember?
Right, they write out this whole thing about how they're like slaying undead, and then like you give them a clue that there might be undead in town. They're like, no, that's boring.
That's the thing. And so I'm going through Tomb of Annihilation very slowly, just because we don't get together very consistently, and a lot of the time when we do, sometimes someone will be late, so we'll like play a board game. This last week actually, we played. We were gonna play, but one of the players was going to be late, so we decided instead we were going to try playing the Tomb of Annihilation board game for a little while, and it ended up being a lot of fun. And when we finished it, we kind of just wanted to play more board games, so we just played more board games. But in that, I'm not going to put any spoilers because it's the beginning of the first session. We're going to be going out on this expedition. We have a bunch of guides we can hire, and one of the guides is all about, I want to kill undead. Like if I go along with you and we kill a bunch of undead, you don't have to pay me. It's like their deal. And my character hates undead. He loves killing undead. So I wanted to go with that one, but at the same time, especially at the first session, like none of the other players were really being that forceful. So I didn't want to force the rest of the players to do what I wanted to do. So I was like, I really want to do this, but let's take a vote. And then we ended up going with somebody else. Anyway, so you can talk to the DM outside of the table, try to impress upon them that like, hey, I think the game would be more fun if we did this. Don't frame it as like this is a bad thing and needs to be fixed.
Right.
Just say, this would be better if blank. And then as long as you are tactful and as long as you don't make the DM feel like they're doing a bad job, whether you feel they are doing a bad job, do not tell the DM they're doing a bad job. That's how you get a target on your own back.
Sure. Yeah, because when you make criticisms and stuff on people like that, and you make them feel like they're doing a bad job or something like that, like that sends people into sort of like a defensive mode. Like it's a like
It kind of becomes like a downward spiral.
Right. Yeah. So like it could very well turn into that. It's like, well, I'll show him.
Right.
Show him.
And I think this maybe sort of leads into our next question.
Oh, we have more questions?
Yes.
Sorry.
I mean, we probably could get some more, another 20 minutes out of this question if we want to, but I think we can move on.
This next question is from Not a Goldfish. I'm kind of suspicious about that though. This was on Reddit. How do I survive a harsh campaign without running from the fun?
Yes, and this is another one that has a little bit of a description. So, Not a Goldfish, I think was posting from a glass bowl, oddly enough. Not a Goldfish said that their DM has made it clear that like this next campaign is going to be very deadly. In fact, the DM is hoping that each player goes through 2 or 3 characters throughout the campaign.
Okay,
and Not a Goldfish actually has a little bit of a bet going on with some of the other players that they're going to try to survive as long as possible.
Sure.
Hopefully survive the entire thing.
Yeah.
So they were saying, I could just not fight, stand in the back with a bow and hide most of the time, but that's not fun.
Right. Yeah.
How do I survive without just abstaining from everything that could get my character killed?
Sure.
And I think this is a fun situation to be in. I think that if especially if you got that sort of a bet going on, I think that it is kind of cool to try and see how long your character, if you accept that your character will likely die, and you're okay with that, trying to survive as long as possible, I think is a great endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So yeah, you could just sit in the back or just refuse to ever get into direct combat, but that's not fun. So I would say the best way to survive is just to be as prepared as possible, prepared for anything. Yeah. And by that, I would say the best tip I can give is get as much gear as you can. So like if you can get a 10-foot pole, never touch anything with your hand that you have not touched with a 10-foot pole first.
Right.
There is a certain very famous adventure. I'm not going to spoil it just because maybe there are people out there that will be encountering this for the first time. There's a certain famous adventure that has a very famous feature right at the beginning of the dungeon that is instant death to anyone who touches it. And I always hear these stories of people. They're like, oh yeah, I jumped right in. What in the world why would you jump into something like, if you don't know if something is safe, especially if you're in a dungeon that is renowned for its traps.
Right, yeah.
Why would you touch anything with your skin, let alone your whole body?
Right, yeah. If you're just going into a dungeon, like a dark, dank dungeon with cobwebs, and it's like, you don't know what's in there.
Like if you saw a vial marked poison, you wouldn't be like, I wonder if this is poison. Glug, glug, glug. No, you would I don't know, do a check or something to maybe dip something into it and find out if it dissolves or not first.
I feel like a vial without a label is scarier than a vial with a label marked poison.
You're not helping my case, Jeff.
But still, no, I'm just
I understand.
But I mean, in the same light, you wouldn't just go for it. You'd be like,
yeah.
I mean, I could see in some cases, I would just be like, we don't know what this is. I'm just going to drink it. See what happens. That's
the thing. I can't understand that.
There's some fun to it because you're just sort of like you're rolling the dice.
I suppose I can see a player being like, well, I mean, we've been staring at this weird dungeon feature for the last 10 minutes. Screw it. I'm gonna jump in. DM. What happens? It's not gonna kill me. Come on. What happened? What happened?
It killed me.
What?
Well, going back to King's Quest 6,
yes.
There is a vial you find that says a label that just says "Drink me."
Okay.
It's very like Alice in Wonderland. I think you actually get it from like an area that is like straight out.
There's a caterpillar smoking a hookah.
You do see there's a bookworm that looks very much like the
caterpillar.
Okay. But anyway, it's a vial that just says "drink me," and like there's a point in the game where you have to like convince people that you're dead.
Okay.
Or you're trying to get this guy to stop following you, so you have to like fake your death. And like the way that you do that is by drinking this potion, which apparently makes you look dead. It's very much like the potion from Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
What ho apothecary, that potion.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. It's a Sierra game, so like you save because you're gonna die a lot. So you'd be like, I can't figure out what to do. I have this potion. I haven't used it yet. I don't know what it does. It just says drink me. You know what? Let me save, drink it, and then you go through this whole scene of like your character dies.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, crap. And then like the you're dead's like menu doesn't pop up. And then suddenly your guy comes back to life.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. And then like the character says something like, man, like, imagine if somebody saw me do that or whatever. And so it's like, oh, that's the hint to like use it in front of the guy.
But then if you've used it already, if you didn't save beforehand,
well, I don't think it uses it up. But in that case, but I mean, in anywhere, it's like sort of a trial and error sort of situation. Not really the case in D&D, obviously.
Sure.
Unless you're like counting on going through several characters or something like that. Like playing D&D like it's a roguelike or something.
Right. Which, I mean, is not an invalid way of playing the game. If that's explicit from the beginning, I would love to play a game like that.
We kind of did do something like that.
When we did the Tomb of Horrors. Yeah. I had you and Steve make, like, you were explicitly going to be playing this like a game. Once you died, you started over back at the beginning. You could use all of your metagame knowledge.
Right.
You could remake your character however you wanted. And so,
didn't we go up a level each time or something like that?
You didn't, but once you got to like the halfway point,
okay.
I decided you could, from that point on, you would be 2 levels higher. So
sure.
like you started out at 3rd level, then you were at 5th level.
Gotcha, yeah.
And there would be times there would be like a monster that you guys just couldn't kill. So you would build your characters just for dealing damage. And I decided damage would carry over. So you would run in, hit once and then die. Run in, hit once and then die again. I thought that was a very fun experience.
That was a pretty good time. Yes.
So like I was saying, be prepared. That was a huge tangent, all because I was talking about touching stuff with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
Bring a 10-foot pole. Bring antitoxin. Can you get antitoxin in 5th edition? In 3rd edition, it was a thing you could just buy.
Yeah.
And like if you got poisoned, it gave you a bonus on your save.
I don't know.
So every little bit of non-magical gear that you can buy that you think might be useful, buy it and find a use for it.
Yeah.
If you have it and you don't use it, it's pointless. So find a way to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And then try not to be the person that drinks any potions
Sure.
or jumps into any dark spaces, I guess.
Oh, kobold with a bell.
Oh, this would be a great opportunity for the kobold with the bell. I'm sure we've mentioned it before, but I will say it again.
Yeah.
The kobold with the bell is a way that you check for traps.
Yep.
You catch a kobold, you give him a bell.
Yep.
You go into a dungeon, you tell him, ring this bell, walk down that hallway, don't stop ringing the bell ever. If he walks down that hallway and he keeps ringing the bell, okay, tell him to come back. If he's ringing that bell and suddenly he stops ringing that bell, you know that he just died to a trap.
Right.
So now you need to send another kobold to go get the bell and bring it back.
Right, because the bell's really expensive.
Exactly.
It's made of brass. I mean, come on.
Right. So, I mean, that's a goofy example, of course,
yeah.
but
I mean, like you could technically do that, or at least attempt to.
Right. Try to negotiate whenever possible. If there's going to be a fight and there's an opportunity to like be like, whoa, hold on. We'll give you some money if you let us pass.
Right. Yeah.
That's something I never try in games. But if I didn't want to die, that's exactly what I would do.
Another thing that most people don't try: run away.
There you go.
Running, like fighting, like sitting in the back and shooting from afar. That can be kind of boring. But like giving it your all and then realizing this isn't going to work.
Sure.
Just get out of there.
Yeah.
And that can be exciting and fun.
Always have an escape route.
Right, yeah.
Always know where the nearest exit is.
Oh, like setting up escape routes would be a neat way to play the game.
There you go.
Like,
if you're in a dungeon, be the character that is drawing out a map.
Right, yeah.
So that your character always knows where the exit is. Mm-hmm. Anytime you go through a door, stick something in the door so that it doesn't lock behind you. Or be grab some pythons or something and jam the door so that nobody can follow you in. And then you can pry it out when you need to leave.
Yeah.
So every little trick you've seen someone in an action movie or like an Indiana Jones movie or whatever, use every little thing.
Yeah.
Bring along a bag of sand. You never know when you're going to need to swap out a gold idol or when there's going to be an invisible platform that you can toss some sand onto.
Sprinkle some sand on there.
Pocket sand.
Sure.
Like, grab stuff that you have no clue what you're going to use it for and find a use for it.
Yeah.
That's going to help you survive.
I would say try not to get too crazy intricate with it.
No, I say get super
well,
crazy.
I mean, because sometimes they can kind of like bring the game to a halt, and then it's like a thing that like never comes up. Like you put all this work into like, okay, we're going through this passage. We'll put like an alarm spell here and a trap here and this and that, and then you realize like
you do all this stuff, and then the DM's like, guys, you just entered a dead end. That's all that was here.
Right? Yeah, and you're just like, oh well, use all these resources to.
There was one time in the Age of Worms campaign, Age of Worms ding, where Jay spent like 10 minutes describing this like stick with a rope and a pulley thing he was building so that he could pull on what he thought was a switch that was going to activate a trap from a distance.
Uh-huh.
But it was because he had misunderstood something I said and he didn't realize it was just like a coat hook.
Oh.
And so he spent like seriously 10 minutes of at the table time describing this mechanism he was building for nothing. So I guess there is a way to overdo it.
It reminds me of your description of a spell when everybody else was blind.
Yeah. I'll cop to that.
Oh my goodness.
So this is going to sound counterintuitive, but I would say be brave. Not brave in that you're always the first one to attack or like the first one into the conflict.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to try something that might overcome a challenge in an unusual way.
Right, yeah.
Because you never know when that thing that you try is going to trivialize the encounter and save everybody's life.
Right, yeah.
You know, just have fun with it. That's the way that you're, whether you die or not, you might lose the bet, but if your character's going to die, make sure that your character died because you were having the time of your life.
Sure, yeah. And like the character itself could be somebody who is like who is just really paranoid.
Yeah.
Like you just play the character like it's just really paranoid, or maybe they're like germophobic, so they don't like touching anything with their hands. So they always have like 10-foot pole or whatever. So like they're just overly cautious or something.
Yeah.
Another thing is like if the campaign hasn't started yet, like I mean like it might involve a little bit of metagaming, but build your character around survival, that sort of thing. One of the characters I've been like toying, like making is like I hate being at the mercy of dice rolls. Mm-hmm. So like there are a few classes and feats and stuff like that can like give you a little extra, a little bit more leeway, like the lucky feat.
Oh yeah, lucky is so good.
Yeah, the lucky feat is really good.
Be a halfling.
Halfling have they can reroll ones.
Halflings essentially will never get a natural one.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, I mean they can.
You would have to get 2 of them in a row,
right? Yeah, which is
it can happen.
It could definitely happen, but it's not anywhere near as likely.
Right.
So yeah, they can't get natural ones. There's the lucky feat, which lets you reroll things, and then as a divination specialist wizard, you roll two dice and then up to 3, I think, later on, that like you can
replace a roll with what you previously rolled.
Yeah, in any roll. So not just your rolls, but an enemy's roll. So like you could, if you roll 2 dice and they're really low, that's fine, because
give that to an enemy and have them miss.
Yeah, they have them miss an attack or something, or have them fail a save.
Oh yeah.
So that was like this character I had has she has 2 cantrip, or she has 2 like cantrip attacks. Mm-hmm. One of them is like an attack roll, and the other one is the enemy saves. So whether she has a high roll with the divination or a low roll,
right,
she's still able to almost guarantee at least something to hit. So if I need something to hit, that's where it is.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty cool.
So that's a character I've specifically made to make sure that at least a few times in an adventure, I'll be able to make sure I roll well. If I really want to do this cool thing, I can probably do it.
And one thing that I just remembered, consumables. Use your consumables. I mean, in games especially, I never use consumables, and I can guarantee you there have been so many times where I wouldn't have died had I used my consumable. Also, I would say buy consumables.
Yeah.
If you can get, I mean, depending on the situation, of course, but like if there's a magic item in the DMG that you think might be able to get you out of a jam once, go ahead and get it and then use it. Because even if it's just if you never get a chance to use it, you didn't spend all that money. You didn't spend a whole bunch of money on a permanent magic item that you didn't get to use. It's just a consumable. So spend little bits of money on consumables and then use them.
This message brought to you by Consumables Incorporated.
Ding.
Oh goodness.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for these two questions. I think they both it's kind of like a good point and counterpoint. Of the two of those, and I thought those were pretty fun.
Nice.
All right, so let's relax after all this fun that we've been having while dying, and let's remember about how some other people have died.
Oh, no.
So let's take a deep breath, and let's toss another log onto the funeral pyre. All right, this funeral pyre story was also submitted by Adam via email, who submitted the item for the Dragon's Hoard. This story goes as follows. This is set in the Curse of Strahd campaign. My partner played a halfling barbarian. The rest of the party decided to drink at the tavern again as the halfling was not interested. She wandered the abandoned streets when she heard noises coming from a derelict house.
Ooh.
Her halfling was very inquisitive, so she entered and failed a stealth check, alerting the cultists in the basement.
Oh, geez.
As she descended into the darkness, the cult fanatic cast Hold Person, while the cultists proceeded to surprise and kill her.
Oh.
The next day, the party realized the halfling hadn't returned and went searching for her, whereupon they found her reanimated corpse shuffling through an abandoned garden and had to fight their previous ally.
Oh, man.
That's a shame. That's a very, very sad story.
Yeah.
But a very memorable one.
Right.
You're going to remember that one.
Sure. And you could imagine, I can imagine myself in that situation, be like, oh yeah, I'm, a halfling barbarian, they can handle a lot of stuff. They can handle, we were just talking about how hardy
halflings are pretty good, and barbarians, ooh, they're awesome.
Halflings are pretty hardy for being, small size.
Yeah. That Hold Person though, if you fail that save.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're just, especially by yourself, Hold Person. You're done.
Yeah. So, very sad, but I guess, let's raise a glass in memory of this reanimated, unlucky halfling. Oh, clink. All right. Well, that'll do it for today. However, before we get to the outro, I have a little project that I'm going to be working on over the next few months. I'm not in a huge hurry on this, so I want to tell everybody about it. If any listeners would like to take part in this, I am very excited about this, and I think it's going to be really cool once it's finished. Mm-hmm. So, I've mentioned before that I built my own arcade cabinet.
Yeah.
Over the last year, I'd say it's about 99% where I want it to be. It's been playable for a very long time. I've had a lot of fun playing it.
Yeah.
But I've been putting all the last little finishing touches on it. Anyway, the reason I built that is because when I was a kid, I never really got to play at the arcade very much.
Mm-hmm.
When I did go to the arcade, I didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't have a lot of quarters to pump into those machines.
Yeah.
And so I have a bit of nostalgia for it, but I kind of missed out on it. So I feel like I missed out on the arcade experience.
Yeah.
And so in recent years, I've gotten more interested in the arcade thing. When I started building this cabinet, it's reignited this interest in the arcade. And so I've decided that I want to do this thing, kind of inspired by this Christmas podcast that I listened to last year. I am going to try over the next few months, I'm going to compile stories about the arcade that people submit to me. and then I'm going to put them all into a podcast, depending on how many I get. Maybe one episode, maybe a bunch of episodes. Maybe I could do it every few months. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is I want people to send me their stories about the arcade. I want you to think back. I want to hear about the sights of the arcade, the sounds, the smells, the feel of the joystick as you move it, the click of the buttons. I want to hear your stories about fun times you had at the arcade, about scary times you had. If there's something that's scary that happened at the arcade, I'd love to hear about that. I want to hear about the rivalries you had with your friends to try and get the high score on Galaga, or the times that you gathered in a crowd to watch two people play Street Fighter that were really, really good at each other.
Right.
Or maybe like the time that you had that chance to play the 6-player cabinet of X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever. I want to hear about those stories that you had. If you just want to rattle off all the games you love to play, I would love to hear that. Any story that you can come up with about the experience of going to the arcade, about wanting to go to the arcade, about the pizza party at the food court where you were right next to the arcade and so you got to watch all the kids play the games or whatever. I would love to hear these kinds of stories. If you want to send them to me in audio format, that would be so cool. If you can record yourself telling these stories, just give it that little personal touch. That would be so awesome. If not, if you're not able to, or you just don't feel like recording it yourself, send me the text. I'll record it, or maybe I'll have Jeff, if Jeff is willing. I haven't asked him to record some of these. If I can get somebody else, different variety of voices to do these. I would love to just get a huge collection of these, put them into a nice podcast. I'll try to put like sound effects. I'll try to put music. I'll try to put, stuff from games. If I can make like a little hour-long thing or more that you can listen to and close your eyes and you can smell the cigarette smoke, because back then a lot of arcades let people smoke in them. Or if you can like feel the sticky floor under your feet, or remember the clink of the coin. You put a coin in the machine and it immediately comes right out the coin return because you didn't realize the game was out of order. Every little, if I can create something that will let you close your eyes and remember all of these experiences, then that is what I'm going for. I want to recreate that in a form that anybody can access forever. You can just go to wherever this podcast is being hosted. You can listen to it and remember what the arcade was like. Or if you never got to experience the arcade, you can feel what it might have been like to be there at that time. I would love that. It's a pure nostalgia project for something that like I said, I don't even really have that much nostalgia. It's all borrowed nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of this. If you would like to take part in this, please let me know. Just send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com. And if you don't have a story you want to share, but there's some way you want to help, then email me and I'll find a way for you to help. I would love for this to be a big, huge community project. The more people I can get involved, the better. I'm super excited about this. I hope that it comes across in this audio. I would love for you guys to be super excited about this. So if you are interested, send me an email. We'll work something out and make this something awesome.
Cool.
So that'll do it for our episode. If you would like to submit questions for the podcast, items for the Dragon's Horde, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, a running list of questions asked, and important links, go to interpartyconflict.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, or our subreddit at reddit.com/r/interpartyconflict, where I post weekly discussion questions for you. You can also find us on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. We recently started a Patreon, so check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers. We actually just last week changed them a little bit in your favor. So anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Mm-hmm. Jeff, you want to tell us about FriendQuest?
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes. Head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. It'll just ask what you like, what you don't like, and just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games, courtesy of Mary and Tom at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time,
don't go into the basement!
There you go. No, don't go!
No.